President's Council, Office of Community Partnerships, right there. Y'all raise your hands there. And also in the back there, if anyone else comes in with children that may need a break or want some activities to do while the adults are talking, particularly when we go to the breakout rooms in just a few minutes, we have a table back there with Miss Marielle Lewis. That's the kids' table. So everybody clap it up for Miss Marielle for spending her evening with us as well. And Beacon provided the food back there, by the way. The Beacon Kitchen provided the delicious treats for us. So thanks to that team over there. All right, I just want, just some housekeeping. If anybody has never been here, right there to the hall to the right are some restrooms, the closest ones. And says everybody to be respectful of the space. This is a very historic space, the African American Heritage Center. And shouts out to that team. Dr. Douglas is in the back, the executive director of the Jefferson School African American Heritage Center. Thank you for allowing us to utilize your space for this event. And so just briefly, want to let our partners officially introduce themselves and what they have. And then right after that, I will be right back with the breakout group instruction. So Ms. Sabrina, one of our great partners with Charlottesville Inclusive Media, you can just kind of start down here and the folks can introduce themselves.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christian West. I serve as Vice President of the Vietnam Alpha Limited chapter of Alpha by Alpha Journey Incorporated. Tonight we are here with our Build This People as a Hopeless People campaign. If you are not registered to vote, today is the last day to register in advance. If you'd like to vote in the June 17th primary, we can do that with you here at the table. If you'd like to check on your registration, we can help you do that. I'll pass it off to our friends here.
That's great, thank you. So I'm Stephanie Higgins from the Charlottesville Tomorrow. We're part of Charlottesville Inclusive Media, but I'm here today actually talking about our voter guide. Charlottesville Tomorrow has put together a voter guide for 20 years, and a few years ago we expanded it to include all of Central Virginia. Now, right now, the only primaries locally in Central Virginia are actually here in our backyard, City Council and a Board of Supervisors race. So we have some information about the guide. What we think is really special about this guide, we have Q&As where we send out the same questions to each candidate in each race, and we publish their answers side by side, so you can compare the positions of each one of your candidates, just kind of see, who you relate to most. And what I think is the most special about this is we crowdsource these questions. So if you go to our voter guide right now, you'll see a survey where we ask you what is one question that you have for a local candidate and what is one question you have for a state candidate. We then take those survey responses and learn in each district what voters care most about. And then we can ask those questions in our Q&As to the candidates. So if you want to swing by here, grab one of our cards. You can look at the Q&As we have posted for the primaries right now, and then fill out the survey for the fall general election. Thank you. Hi, my name is Sophia, and I'm with the Public Housing Association of Residents. So our mission is to educate and empower low-income residents to protect and improve our own communities through collective action. So what that looks like is a lot of different events. We have an internship program for both youth and adults where they can come and learn about community organizing and become leaders in their own communities. We have Know Your Rights sessions, one-on-one with community members. And what we're here to really focus on is our new initiative called Far Voices, Far Votes, which is a new initiative to basically encourage voter education and voter engagement within public housing communities. So we're working really hard to make sure that everyone is educated and that everyone is involved. Voting is a very important part of our democracy, so we're happy to be here.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Sandra Yvette Avalos, and I'm with Charlottesville United for Public Education. And we are a very small grassroots nonprofit here in Charlottesville. And our work that we do is really centering our community voices and bridging any gaps that we're hearing from community needs, and trying to partner better with anybody that's doing similar work to us, but especially Charlottesville City Schools. And we do that in a number of ways. It could look like bringing information out to communities, bringing information to our partners from our communities. Yeah, mainly we're just trying to center great education for all of our students. That's it.
Hi, I'm Santella, and I'm with the Center for Community Partnerships. I'm actually going to pass it to our amazing executive director.
Thanks, Sam. I've been Alan, the executive director of the Center for Community Partnerships, and specifically what we have here is some of our focus on the regional work on community safety, specifically around gun violence, and so some of the data work that's been done by our community research team. Overall, our goal is to build bridges with the University of Virginia, localities, community nonprofits, and other local leaders around focus areas such as education with public readiness, access to public health, affordable housing, and other community-driven priority areas. I'm just really excited to be here tonight with you all in this conversation.
My name is Sally Hudson. I'm a fellow of the Institute of Democracy at UVA, and I'm here this evening to answer any questions that you may have about using ranked choice voting in our election for City Council in June. This is the first year that Charlottesville is using ranked choice voting in a City Council election. That means you don't just vote for one candidate, you get to rank the candidates in the order that you like them. So there are 3 candidates that are running. That means you get a first, second, and a third choice. This is a pilot program for the city. So even if you already know how to fill out your ballot, it's important that you also stay engaged so that you can give City Council feedback about how you like the new system and whether you'd like to keep it going forward in the future. So if you have any questions about the election in June or about the process going forward, please find me some time this evening.
All right, thank you. All right, check. All right, so thank you all for joining us. And I see some very distinguished delegates in the crowd as well. Like Latricia there, who's executive director for FAR, raise your hand. All right. And I don't want to start calling names. So so all of our public officials, just can y'all stand so people know that you're here? I see the PCOB, I see the assistant chief right here. Mayor. I feel like there's other folks too. But y'all want to be shy. Okay, I get it. We have FAR here, but we also have PHA. I see them there giggling. PHA representatives, Piedmont Housing Alliance. Y'all raise your hands, please. Yeah, so as you all can see, it's just a beautiful community, a well-connected community, many resources, and we really do work together, and we want to improve this area. So that is the biggest reason why we're here today. So once again, what we're going to do now, we're going to go into the 4 breakout rooms. The idea is for the next 45 minutes, 6:15 to 7, for there to be very, good and these discussions that we can have where we narrow it down to each select group, each policy group, right? And it's going to have facilitators and note takers in each room to kind of help summarize and to bring takeaways to the larger group when we come back in here at 7:00, where we can talk about 2 to 3 key points from each room, and then we can come together and discuss it. And most importantly, which what we like to do, whether it's IMHO, Vinegar Hill, or Charlottesville tomorrow, is not just talk about what's going on, but also have action items, right? So that's the big thing about tonight, is to bring us all community officials, leaders together to be able to really discuss what is top of mind in the community, what our elected officials also would like to see from us, and then to have those items that we walk away knowing what next steps look like, right? All right, so to my far left in that corner is going to be local policy, which is where the city councilman will be, which is Mayor Wade, Vice Mayor Pinkston, and also candidate Jen Flasher. And then next door is going to be the state. So the same corner, next door is going to be our state reps. I see Delegate Katrina Carlson, raise your hand, Katrina. And Creed Deeds is here as well. I saw him earlier. I know he's here, but they're going to be in that room there. And then in the room behind me here is going to be criminal justice, where we're going to have Sheriff Brown back there, as well as Commonwealth Attorney Joe Platania, and also the of course, the Assistant Chief, Meehan, and if Officer Gonzalez, I imagine you're going to be in that room as well. So that's that room. Far room down the hall here is the education breakout room, last but not least. And we're going to have our city school board representatives. Emily Dooley is here, Amanda Burns is here, as well as Lisa Larson Torres and candidate Deshaun Cooper. And for those just joining us, Zayana is under the weather, so she can't join us tonight. So we look forward to her joining us at a future event. So that is the instructions. It is just about 6:15. Community partnerships. Am I forgetting anything? Sarad, am I forgetting anything? So as I said, you can pick your room: local policy, state policy, criminal justice, education, and then we will reconvene in here at 7 o'clock. Thank you. And so we do have the chairs up here for any of our panelists that would like to come to the stage, because I imagine now there may be follow-up, maybe more questions, particularly from some individuals who weren't in a breakout group. Once they hear some of the discussion that was had in a group they weren't in, there may be some further conversations. So that's what this time is for. So anybody from city council, our state reps, school board, our law enforcement, anybody that wants to come up on the stage, feel free. Yeah, come on up and join us. Somebody here may not know who you are. Any city council candidates, or state representatives, school board, or criminal justice folks? And then we'll ask our facilitators to take the first four chairs here so that they can report on their summaries of the discussions. No, you can go up front here. Yeah. Well, you don't. Well, you can just stand up when you talk. Either way. All right, but that's only three. We're missing somebody, right? Okay.
I'll sit in the middle.
Yeah.
These kind of chairs.
And I know I should, but there's just some folks that you can't overlook, and so let's show some love for our city superintendent, Dr. Royal Gurley, here with us. I mean, because he really could be anywhere, you know. So for Dr. Gurley to take his time out to come here this evening shows a lot, you know, about the care that we have for our community and our school system. As well as I don't think I shouted out Angelique Shaw. She is the executive director for Charlottesville Tomorrow. So Ms. Angelique Shaw. Yeah. Yes, indeed. All right. Oh, and Dr. Allen, be back in a second. So while we wait on our last facilitator, there's actually mics there. So if everybody just want to introduce themselves, just for anybody that may not have been in your group, may not know who you are.
My name is Brian Pinkston, and I'm running for re-election to Charlottesville City Council.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Larson Torres, and I am currently on the school board, and I am also running, and I'll be on the ballot this November.
Good evening. Emily Dooley, current chair of the Charlottesville City School Board, also running for re-election.
Jen Fleischer, I'm a candidate for City Council.
Greetings. My name is Juan Diego Ricardo Wade, and I'm mayor of the great city of Charlottesville.
How do you follow that? Joe Platania, Charlottesville Commonwealth's attorney. Thank you for putting this together, and thanks for everyone that came out. It's been a great night.
Hi, I'm Katrina Carlson. I am in the House bin. You're ruining my moment here. No. Katrina Carlson, serving the House of Delegates, represent Charlottesville in the urban ring of Albemarle.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Burns. I am currently serving as a vice chair of Charlottesville City School Board. I am not running for re-election. I've got a couple more years left, but thank you all for being here.
I'm Creed Deeds in the State Senate. I enjoyed the conversation.
All right, thank you all. Please give them a round of applause. Look, oh yeah, the Shaw snuck in the back. He snuck in on me.
My name's Deshaun Cooper. I'm running for Charlottesville School Board.
All right, there we go. Yep. So thank you all, once again for spending your evening with us. I'm sure the community, I speak on behalf of the community, and say it's highly, highly appreciated. And so what we wanted to do first was let our facilitators report back on the key takeaways, top 3 or so topics that were discussed. And then again, if there's any elaboration, and then as a group, any follow-ups, and also from any of you that maybe weren't in a particular breakout group, if you hear something that may spark an idea or spark a question, this is the time for that open discussion. So the first one, we can just kind of go in order if that's okay. Start with the local policy.
All right. I had the opportunity of facilitating the local policy group. And there was many ideas besides the 2 that you see on the chart, but I would say the first one is really around increased coordinated opportunities for youth programs. We got into the piece, and not only we're talking about community safety, but also just the sheer number of youth that need opportunity in this community, and not just what we think of like school age, but also 18 and older, so 18 to 24. And that translated not just opportunities for like mentorship, tutoring, but really specifically with housing, especially in that area of 18 to 24, where so pointedly put, like at some point we not have roommates, and so being able to afford a house or afford an apartment. And that's what led us to, I think, the very underscoring piece of it was, I wrote it as ensuring or continuing appropriate collaboration around transportation, housing, and policing. And emphasis on the word appropriate. One of the things we talked about is around collaboration, some of the work to uplift around the regional transit partnership. All of these services that we talk about, whether it's health, whether it's housing, whether it's jobs, whatever the case may be, really rely on a strong collaborative regional transit partnership that allows people to get to and fro. Also, and to an extent, we talked about appropriate collaboration around policing in terms of the MOUs between the jurisdictions. What is an appropriate amount of oversight that should be had over the specifically city oversight board, and what that translates into UPD as well as ACPD. Anyone else that was in that room like to say any other major points, but the main things were around how do we ensure appropriate local collaboration around the council, school boards, etc.
Thank you. Yeah. If there's any questions or comments, as he said, anybody elaborate from the group, or if you weren't in the group and you may have a question about what was reported. But if not, that's an awesome job then. Let's give it up for that group. All right, next up, we have our state policy group.
I'll be the man. Oh, man. I'll be the man in black.
Hey.
So I facilitated the state policy group with Creedy and Stephen Carlson. And the key takeaways from our group, one was that we have some great representation in Richmond. So I thought that was great feedback from the group, honest feedback from the group. And we also discussed the current state of Medicaid in the state, and the group decided that wins with Medicaid, however small, are wins. They took it a step further, stating that change can be small, however, can be small and incremental, and also impactful.
All right.
Any follow-up questions? Thank you.
What was the hot topic? What was hard? What was difficult? What made the representatives sweat?
Oh.
What I said was that the hardest part of the discussion is about Medicaid, about the federal cuts that are going to come inevitably, and how we're going to respond to them, or how we're not going to be able to respond to them. What we're going to do to try to respond to them.
Yeah, if I had to summarize the takeaway, why we ended on those happy points was because a lot of the conversation was a little bit of a downer. It was a lot of talks about cuts to services, how we're having to be responsive and on the defensive to what's happening at the federal level, and happy to jump into that further with folks. I mean, it's affecting public housing, it's affecting Medicaid, it's affecting schools. So at the end, we were like, let's talk about some wins so that we don't walk out here crying. We did have record funding for education. We eliminated the child care wait list, so that's why we ended on those notes.
Was there any solutions that came out of the conversation?
There are some solutions. That's where the incremental piece came in. So for example, with public housing, we were talking about making it so that there's lower taxes for affordable housing developers, small win, but hopefully can encourage development. That was something that passed this year. We talked about eliminating the child care wait list. So yeah, small wins. I don't want to repeat the whole discussion for the big group, but I guess we're opening it for questions.
Absolutely.
Back to the Medicaid, so.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, so just going back to the Medicaid cuts that will probably show up, right? We were just on Capitol Hill a couple of weeks ago working for the Lupus Foundation of America because we have a daughter with lupus. And we were talking to the congressional staffers there about the cuts. And we asked, what can we do to support you to try and make things better, right? And what they said was, go back to your state level legislators and have them put pressure on the federal legislators. And so I don't know how effective that is, but I told Cree that I sent him a letter and I was like, hey, can you put pressure on the federal legislators?
Okay.
I don't know if that's even doable, right?
Yeah, and Cree is actually, we are so well positioned having him there and working on this, and he is on the budget because it comes down to money. But that being said, I actually have your phone number in my notes right now. Yes, because we're doing a press conference to the extent we can put pressure. We are trying. So we are doing a press conference here in Charlottesville this Thursday, and we are actively seeking people who have stories because stories resonate with folks. So if you are being affected or potentially will be affected by Medicaid or the threat of the loss of Medicaid, then please do reach out to me because they are looking for people to share those stories. But I did smile when you first said that because the buck, it's nice when you can pass it off to someone, and it is up to our federal legislators to do a lot of that funding. So we can put pressure, but they also need to actually take the votes that matter. Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult for us to think about how we're going to replace the potential billions of dollars in funding that we could lose from the federal level. And John McGuire might not listen to me or to Katrina, but all of the Congress people listen to the bulk of the people that vote in their elections. And so it's important to keep the pressure. And I will tell you, initially when we were trying to evaluate what was going to happen with Medicaid, we thought the Medicaid expansion would be the easiest cut for them to make. And it would have been, and probably the biggest bang for the buck would have cost Virginia $2.5 billion a year to replace what they were doing. But the reality is, so many people raised so much cane around the country that they basically took that off the board in the House, and they took the burden off the Medicaid expansion population and put it on mothers and children. So they didn't do anything good, but they took that group off the board because people raised so much cane. People, they heard about it from so many different states. And the fact is that there are 3 Republican states in the Midwest that expanded Medicaid in their constitutions. And so it would have a particularly hard impact on them.
So one thing that I'm thinking, because Cree and Katrina are very present in Charlottesville and Albemarle, and I think most people here know that and see them around. So I'm curious whether Mayor Wade or Vice Mayor Pinkston may want to address it, but how do we work together as far as some of the topics that were talked about in the local policy, as far as how we can work better together between our city council and our state delegation?
Yeah, so that actually came up during our discussion as well, about how we can lean into that. And we have, as a locality, have been asked, over the last couple of months by at least a couple of dozen nonprofits to kind of make up for some of the federal funding and things that have been cut, and that's going to make it us even more difficult to kind of maybe help out where for Medicaid and Medicare and things like that. We can backfill the federal government. And so, but we understand that without safety, without health, it's difficult, if not impossible, to thrive. And that's what we want everyone in this community to do and be. And so that's part of the things that we have to consider when we think about the budget and where we spend our money. This year, when we adopted the budget about a month ago, it had a real little impact because most of the budget and things were in place. But we know for next year, it's going to be a lot of impacts on it. And so on things like PHA, the expansion of the Kindlewood and the redevelopment of West Haven. So it's going to have a big impact of some plans and things that we have. And so we just have to wait and see how it's going to play out.
And Jim, I don't know if you had anything to add. But I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah. A couple of things. Is this on? Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
just kind of hold it up.
How about this? Is it better? Okay. Thank you. One thing that I will say is we really are fortunate with Senator Deeds and Delegate Carlson. They are very responsive. The TJPDC is an amazing organization. Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission, they do a lot of sort of knitting together different groups and regions and so on to help us come up with a unified platform, as it were, with the state. Towards the state government, our response towards Richmond. So there's a lot of, and every year in the fall, there's a legislative packet we put together on council to help inform what we'd like our legislators to lobby for. So that's an important piece. Another thing that's worth, I think, bringing up, this piece about funding. We're going to do everything we can to help. We always do. We put a lot of money into the Pathways program. We're going to continue to do that. And then I had another thought that's suddenly just left my mind, but I'm sorry. Pathways program.
Yeah,
I remember now. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's been a long day. The budget surplus. So we had a budget surplus from FY24, and people get really frustrated with budget surpluses, which I understand why they do. But it's turned out to be a good thing right now because we're going to use it to backfill some of these programs that are struggling with funding. The other piece that I'm just going to bring this full circle. One of the things that as I work at the university, and even though the university is struggling a little bit with money right now, they've got a lot of money, a lot of ways to raise money, grants, gifts from donors, and so forth and so on. Your local governments have just very few levers to raise the funds, the revenues it takes to fund these programs. The biggest one we have is real estate tax, and then we have meals tax, the transit occupancy tax, and things like that. And so the point I'm trying to make is this sort of circularity of the fact that to do the things that we are going to need to do as a community, there will be an economic impact to people in terms of how we have to raise revenue.
All right. Okay. All right. So to keep things going, and if we have time at the end, we can loop back around to any given group. But next up, let's bring up the criminal justice group.
Oh, you're here. I'm over here. Perfect. Can y'all hear me okay? Awesome. I want to give huge shout out to my group. We had a really, I think, fruitful discussion, and we all wanted more time to resolve some of these things. But the main points that we talked about, many of which were shared with the local policy group: increased coordination of services. How do we get upstream, right? How is law enforcement not where the buck stops, but how do we prevent that from even being a situation that we need to address? So how are we providing upstream services to support and address root causes? So mental health support, youth support, education, housing, things like that. We talked a lot about how there's a language discrepancy in the language that law enforcement uses and that the understanding on the part of the community. And so how can we sort of bridge those divides and make sure that we have a shared understanding? But I think the point that I want to emphasize that came up in our group is that the community has to define what positive engagement means. A lot of times folks will say they're doing community engagement, or we'll talk about how we're so community engaged and we're really going out there. But how is the community defining that? And how are they setting the terms for that positive engagement? And how are we bringing those most impacted to the table? It's great that we're all here having this conversation. How are we making sure that those who didn't feel welcome today or had barriers to getting here are able to be part of shaping what the future we want to see? But that was my group. I don't know if folks have questions or if anyone else from the group wants to chime in, but those were our key takeaways.
Thank you. Good job. Yeah. Yeah, and I, on that note, I do want to shout out to, again, the folks at FAR and PHA as well, who did offer transportation to residents in their communities too. So, thankful for good leadership like you guys. So let's give it up for them as well. And Robert Gray, for those who don't know Robert Gray, raise your hand, Bert. So Robert Gray is in charge of the Uhuru Foundation, as well as a Peace in the Streets. So he does a lot of great work with the youth as well. So let's give it up for him as well. But so to that point, because I heard when y'all were coming out of the rooms, y'all said that discussion was just getting good. So I don't know why everybody's sitting quiet now. So questions, comments about criminal justice.
Did you discuss cooperation with ICE?
I will say that was a question in our group, and so we did talk about that briefly. I don't know.
Yeah, I asked a question to the sheriff about whether there's been discussions about how we could respond differently, given what happened in the Eleanor courthouse a month or so ago. And I did get the sense from talking with others that there have been some conversations, but I'm not sure where that's going to take us.
Yeah, I can speak to that just really quickly. Then maybe the mayor, our police chief has been very clear to staff and to city council that we're not cooperating with ICE. We're not going to participate in their actions. If our police see what appears to be outside agencies operating in our jurisdiction, then there'll be a very clear statement to them of show us your identification and so on. One of the interesting things, and I think with the police chief and his responses to us, was just that a level of frustration with these other agencies of what he would call unprofessionalism, because that's among many things cruel is one important adjective, but it's also unprofessional. And so I think that's one of the things he expressed. Mm-hmm.
It's Daniel being at subject with the Charlottesville Police Department. I don't want to speak, nor do I speak for Chief Hodges or the Charlottesville Police Department, but everyone in the room should know that in the city of Charlottesville, Chief Hodges has been crystal clear. Questions related to someone's citizenship status are not part of any interaction with law enforcement. We as prosecutors generally have access to that information. It's not part of any decision that we make or is anything explicitly ever discussed. In fact, sometimes we have to consider the collateral consequence of a prosecution that may lead to an unintended deportation, which is a massively significant collateral consequence that other members of our community might not suffer. So federal law is federal law. We can't really do anything about it, but I would say in the city with law enforcement and prosecutors' offices, there's certainly heightened sensitivity of the times we are living in. I'll leave it at that, but I hope. Yeah, the courthouse, I think there's a bit of a wait and see attitude. The most recent incident was on property of Albemarle County. The Albemarle County Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Brown is here for the city, but we're very much keeping our eye on the situation. And as Vice Mayor Pinkston said, I think there's been a directive that individuals show up that are not clearly displaying their badge of authority and identifying themselves and what they're there for, that local law enforcement will approach them and ask what's going on.
So on the state level, we also have our eye on this. Cree and I put in a FOIA request to the county to try to understand what happened at the courthouse. We got to view the footage. I have made the results of that FOIA available on my website, and I'm trying to correct it, but that's where they are. They weren't particularly illustrative of anything, but I will say, pay attention, because this is about transparency. We don't necessarily control what the federal government does, but as citizens who pay taxes for our local police, we certainly deserve to know how they are interacting with federal agencies. And it's been a little hard to dig that up, and I do think pressure works there. So just pay attention. We all deserve to know that.
Yep.
And city, I do want to clarify, the city's not part of that, it's the county, that's what we're talking about.
I just want to quickly add in that I concur with my other colleagues, but it just will be a very chilling effect if you don't feel like you can go to the courthouse, if you don't feel like you can go to the hospital, if you think ICE or the things, agencies are going to be there to arrest you. And so that is, again, that is not part of the environment where we believe our citizens can thrive and feel safe or be safe. And so again, the city is not, not part of that. And we're glad that the Chief Kochis has been very clear about that.
Was there any conversation on preventative measures, especially with our youth, before they get to law enforcement, before they get to the point of having to interact with law enforcement? Did that come up in conversation?
So I just want to add that for the last 10 minutes, I've been looking at your number one point about mentorship. And so that is something that has been something that I've been saying that we need more of in this community for years, mentoring. But we did talk about it in our group with the Vibrant Community Funds, the various nonprofits that we fund, and even to the impact that, housing has on youth in their development. The investment that we have done with the schools of $90 million to rebuild Beaufort, Charlottesville Middle School. So, yes, we did talk about it. It's important because we may not need as many police officers and many cells and things if we build strong youth, strong children to be strong adults, and so and that where they feel connected and with the community and wanted. And so that's what all these wonderful nonprofits that we have in our community. And that's where I got started off before I got on the school board, volunteering, being on these various boards, mentoring with my great fraternity brothers there with Alpha Phi Alpha, with the different mentoring groups. It's real important and has an incredible impact.
Thank you.
One of the things that we talk about is transparency with the community. And one of the particular things with policing is that we learned that there is criteria for our young folks getting on a particular list. I forget the name of it, but getting on that particular list. And we said, okay, well, are we being transparent and not necessarily the community knowing whose names are on this list, but are we able to speak with and work with our young people and let them know the criteria for them to get on the list? So I want to make sure that that is not lost, and I would like to hold all of us to the fire and just say, how are we going to communicate that to the people that are here?
What list? I'm not sure if I understand.
Speaking about
projects that
they're the prolific offender list. So we definitely talk about not sharing that list public, but at least sharing publicly the criteria of, so that we can better engage our youth.
Yep. Thank you.
Joe, if you can highlight the conversation when we had around lack of resources too, that would be great.
Joe, we have one right here for you.
Yeah, we have a total lack of resources.
I mean, a question was asked if a parent has a child that is in need of help or services or resources, what's out there? And, you know, as prosecutors and to some extent law enforcement, we're reactive after something happens, which is terrible. But on the front end, I just, you know, I don't have a good answer to that question, what we have on the front end. I mean, mentorship and building those kinds of programs is great, but you know, Jess, I don't know if you said it, like we're lacking like a hub of where people can go. So I think it's a lot of work that we have to do, which is what our group identified. I don't know if that's what you wanted me to get up and say in front of everyone. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for bringing that to the table and to our discussion.
I think the other, just the other part of what the conversation was, it wasn't just the fact that the lack of resources, right? Because as we talk about Charlottesville, you know, there's so many nonprofits, there's a lot of money, you know, flowing into these nonprofits, but then when it comes to like mental health, right, and that list is so long and there's not enough resources to support those folks that need the support of mental health. As we talk about mentorship, right, there's not enough mentors to go around. So like, we talk about resources all the time, we talk about these things all the time, but the reality of it is that we have all these nonprofits, but we still don't have the resources to support the community. And then I heard somebody say in the group about looking for saviors to come and save us, and this, that, and the other, which I don't think that that's necessarily the mentality. I think like the root of communities that are thriving and succeeding is like, you know, the circle of care, I think Jess had mentioned, right? Like a circle of care, the people that are coming together to actually help support and uplift those folks that need that support. So they just be like, we don't got enough resources. And it's like, all right, but that doesn't solve the problem.
Well, I think it's a conversation we don't have enough, and what can we do to sort of organize them and marshal them and try and do a better job as a community?
I'd like to say something to that too. I'm really glad you brought that up because it's not only the community of care, it's the continuity of care, the continuum of care that really helps move the positivity forward and support the youth as they move through, you know, into adulthood and particularly through our school systems. So there's going to have to be, with the pulling of funding federally, a lot of the nonprofits that you're referencing are hitting spots where they won't be able to provide the services they did. And so there's going to have to be a consolidating or a much more collective and collaborative work between government and those nonprofits to start really being held not only accountable for actually showing us what is going on, transparency at all levels, like you should know why your neighborhood isn't getting a sidewalk, right? Like you should be able to see that. We should know how many police have been trained in mental health, care in their processes. And all of those levels of transparency are what help us as communities circle up and say, okay, we can see where we are on the on advancing this initiative, and we want to say in moving that forward. So we're going to take the reins and partner with another nonprofit and then pressure other places to fund and support that work. So I think you're right in saying that we have so many nonprofits, all their funding's being pulled, where we don't just need to fill the gap behind them and keep them all existing, doing what they're doing, because we're not seeing enough of that work. They need to work together, and we need to know about that work at all those levels so that we can support it too. And then that will lead to that continuity and that sustainability, and then we'll really see the difference happen over time. So I think the transparency covers all of those pieces.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Can we clap it up for them? That's a good conversation. So if we wouldn't mind, I know there's a couple of more questions. If you could hold those thoughts so we can get to the education group. So make sure that they report on theirs, and then we can follow up on any unanswered questions. Thank you.
Just wanting to point out that this will be a continuation of this conversation because we talked about many of the same things. Our first big idea was around mentorship and how our young people need more mentors, how the city schools do a good job with this for our students, but they need more, especially as they're launching into their careers at 18, 19, 20, 21. Our second big idea was that we know that keeping students safe is a priority, and that means physically safe, mentally safe, emotionally safe. How can the community do this together? So how can they be safe in school, outside of school, how can they always feel safe and supported? And our third one was, how do we ensure that the community knows how the schools are doing? So to all of these points, when there is money invested, time invested, teachers and parents and everyone working together, how do we make sure people know what those outcomes are and not just using numbers? So not just looking at quantitative measures, but also at qualitative measures to ensure that we all understand the health of our school district.
Thank you. And that mentoring is definitely a theme that's coming up. And I heard a list mentioned and whatnot. So was that something that actually, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I had one more thing. Those were our kind of three big questions for the group. The number one thing that we heard over and over and over is that we need to be listening to all voices. And all means all. Specifically, our student voices need to be brought to the table, and they need to be centering this conversation. Student voices, teacher voices, staff voices, parent voices, community member voices, all voices.
Thank you. Thank you. And our school board members, anything to add? Emily, Deshad, Amanda, Lisa?
I'll let Amanda talk to the work that she's done recently with our school board representative, but I think some conversation and one takeaway that we would like the group to leave with is that the importance of investing and paying attention to our schools and students needs to be year-round and not just in response to moments that get the schools in the news. And so that's where some of the discussion around advocacy and mentorship comes from, that our staff, our teachers are nearing capacity. And so we need help from the community to make sure that our students really get everything that they need.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit on the student voice piece. I would say in the last year or so, we have made a really strong effort to ensure that we are working with our students in a collaborative way. I specifically meet with our student school board reps once a month prior to our school board meeting. We developed a survey form that goes out to students so that they know where to access the agenda every single month. And then there's a feedback form that they can send questions or feedback based on what's on the agenda. And then the student school board reps kind of survey and talk to their peers throughout the week during Black Night time or during different focus groups, where they can solicit and gather feedback from their peers to then bring that back to the board level. And then from there, we're working with those student representatives to then find the point people within the school system that can help them address those issues. So if there are not enough lunch options for instance, they then went to the head of our nutrition department and worked with him to identify ways that we can make sure that we're being culturally responsive to all students, that we're offering a variety of foods that care and cultivate all students. And so that's just one example of something we've worked on more recently. And I hear the rice bowls are a hit. So if you are free for lunch, please sign up and come eat a rice bowl with the students. So, yes.
Yeah, I think quickly, I just wanted to highlight the fact that, we've got schools, we've got city council, we've got our state legislation, we got judicial, and we all have a great working relationship, and communication goes both ways with everybody that you've had the opportunity to interact with tonight. And one thing that's clear to me in this moment, and has been throughout the years of my time on the school board, is that everybody cares about the smallest community member all the way up to our most mature community member. And we've got a great group here in this room. And I think this is just wonderful that you've brought us all together. So thank you for that. And it's been wonderful to see and listen to the questions. And as Ms. Dooley said, we at the schools, and I think everybody, we want to hear from you. Everybody's got great ideas. And we do need you pushing in to the extent that you can, or connecting us with other people to help. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And, you good?
One thing I'll say about the schools really quickly, every year the most amazing slide in the entire, and Dr. Gurley, it is amazing, the presentations for the budget time, the crunch that we go through there and all of that every year. But the slide that is the most amazing to me, and I think if everyone in the community knew about these slides, are how many different languages are spoken at our schools, and the percentage of students who need free or reduced lunches, meals, food. Those two slides say so much about our community, both really great things and things that we struggle with. And it also is why it costs a lot of money to run our schools, not just to build the buildings, but also to run them. And anyway, I think if you get a chance to talk to anyone that doesn't live in Charlottesville, or maybe someone who may be complaining about why, whatever, just point them to those slides to say, this is the kind of community. It's a welcoming community to refugees, and it's also a community with a history that we need to address ongoing poverty.
Thank you. Thank you. And I believe we have an educator that has a question or comment, Mr. Chambers.
Going back to first group that brought up our youth, and then connected it with the mentorship situation. School is about to close, and our kids are going to be finding ways to manage their time. One of the biggest things I'm worried about here in Charlottesville is that we do not have really anywhere other than if people have money and finances to send their kids to Boys and Girls Club or YMCA or something during the day, is after 6 o'clock. And if they can't go to a Monday night place, like, what do our kids do? Was that talked about in that first group about how do we take care of our kids beyond that time of 6 o'clock, not just during the week, but on the weekends, when there are places and probably being asked to leave the downtown mall and places like that. We need to do something. I know there are buildings around here and things like that, but has that been talked about?
Anyone?
So we did not specifically talk about kind of what to do after 6. And as you were talking, I was like, there really is not a lot of options. That's from someone who's been working with youth for a long time to kind of ask that type of question. But that's a good question. I think we need to do more in that, and that's something that we probably need to work with Parks and Rec. I know that we fund things like the Tonsil Basketball League, but that's only for select group. And it's not for everyone, so we need to do more. I think organizations like C4K that stay open to 8:30, more things like that. But we need to do more. It's a good point. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
And the C4K board chair is here, Caleb Nelson. So one of the main threads that I heard as well, which makes me wonder, when people ask you about community resources, like in general, where do they get directed to? And if I'm hearing it correctly, it sounds like there was talks of maybe a list, and then where would they get housed at? Like your general resources, right? Whether it's the nonprofits or whatnot, where should that be housed?
So if someone asked me, I've been on most of the boards, so I can tell them like who to contact, the number and everything. But there is an organization. I know United Way keeps a comprehensive list. That's why I usually direct individuals. I direct them to people like John Thompson over here. He has his office has a great list of what's going on. The county does not have as many options that the city kids do. I work for the county. I just retired last week for 34 years, and I know that the questions and things that you have, they have it like, what do I do for, during the day? It's just not as many options. So we do have more options during the day, but there are a lot of nonprofits and groups out there. As we talked about working with youth, I know my daughter did Parks and Rec for summer programs for many years, and so anyway, it's difficult to try to address that. That's why we rely on nonprofits to help kind of the city extend its reach into the community. You have a much better pulse on what's going on. And I'm sure that if we get a good program to fund through the Vibrant Community Fund, that would be something that we would support.
Thank you. Yes.
The Charlottesville Department of Human Services, along with the Charlottesville area dedicated to youth development, or CANDID, work with the former Equity Center, now Center for Community Partnerships at EDA, to create a website that has youth opportunities. So this was in response to this same question from folks to say, well, where do we even find information? If you go to the website, you can actually look for opportunities for youth that are separated by cost. And so those are that are no cost or low cost. We can also try to work on adding some other resources if they exist for youth in the evenings. The Charlottesville Department of Human Services is also working on sponsoring some more teen nights. And the YMCA is also sponsoring some teen nights. I say that to say that helps, but it does not fill the gap, right? And so there is still a gap.
Thank you. And Latricia and team, also wanted to see if you all are hearing the housing thread as well. Have any questions in particular on how housing plays a part in this, available housing, affordable housing?
I know that a lot of our work does specialize around public housing. We are for affordability of housing, and make sure that we advocate on behalf of that. So if there are people who fall up that do not live in public housing, because we do get a lot of calls because wages are low, they cannot get on different voucher lists. So we try to provide the best resources that we can. We just keep a general resource sheet in our office. We're working on getting things more up to date and online, but one of the key things that you said, resources, we are a small nonprofit, and we're trying to do our best to solve many of those solutions, especially once again from the public housing aspect. So we are working on things in our whole community as far as we're starting a new leadership internship program where teams will be paid to come and do work to learn about organizing and advocacy. But you know what? That was by the grace of me going to talk to a church and they gave us a little bit of money. So it's going to take us all. We're all for even collaborating with other organizations because right now the name of the game is going to be collaboration and really coming together as a community and interconnecting all of these resources together. It's not just a housing is a segment, but all of it impacts us all. If you don't have a good place to live, you don't have a good start at education, you don't have a lot of the basics that you need to survive and just thrive to be on this plane as a person. It's important to be able to have those resources and connect. Because what we don't know is when we talk a little bit about in the criminal education, children are aware themselves that their path could be prison at third grade. That is what we do. So we have to stand up and fill the gap as community members of the city. I mean, it is my own personal battle and pride for us at FAR because we want to make sure that we are a community that is historically that I can underserved. We talked a little. I mentioned it. You march people from Benefit Hills to a space and expected what? What did you expect? You expected what you got. So you cannot complain about there's no resources when you set people up for failure. So what we're doing now, unfortunately,
Thank you.
Foreign asylum, it's not gonna be United Education asylum, it's not gonna be any of that. If we wanna progress where we need to go, especially in this environment, it's gonna take, I know it's what, 70 folks in this room, and that's a great start. So each of us now are gonna have to go say, hey, we need to add value, because there's some serious stuff going on. Let's take you as a community member to invest in the youth, in our elderly, in our mentally challenged folks that are having issues, and our people who are addicted to drugs.
Thank you. We got you. Thank you. Appreciate you. We need that fire. All right, we have another question or comment over here.
With the website you're speaking of, who knows about it? Are you getting to the teachers about it? Are you getting to the librarians about it? So a lot of these people, children probably will not have computers or Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So those are two areas I'm sure you can think of other ones that I can't think of.
Yes. We originally sent it out to all of the schools and worked with school counselors as well in order to get the information out, understanding that those counselors might not be showing the website to people, but helping those kids and families to access the information. We just had a meeting today that we need to re-push out that information such that people are seeing it again and again and again. And so to your point, we are sharing it with people. We need to continue to share it, and we need to have other people to help us to share it, because it's going to take all of us to make sure that they have the information they need.
All right, thank you.
Include the librarians.
Got you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, sir. And so the last question, I believe Angelique has one over here. And remember, this was just a kickoff, guys. These individual offices, we plan on having dedicated time with them as well to continue the discussions, because there's never going to be enough time for everything, right, in one sitting. But I know Angelique had her hand up for a while.
So I just wanted to shout out one more resource that might be helpful. FAR was one of our partners, almost 100 agencies in Charlottesville City and Albemarle County. If you go to cvilletomorrow.org, at the top you will see a button for the Housing Resource Guide. It's a really incredible resource. We put a lot of energy into making it good and useful on your mobile. You can help folks get to there's a lot of resources in this area. It's just really hard to, our experiences with the agencies didn't know each other existed. So we really hope that kind of collaborative work to increase transparency and access to information helps as our community governs itself.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the time where we will wrap up, and hopefully you found this very fruitful and encouraging. We made new connections, and again, this is just one of the discussions, but hopefully going away from here, we all see some action items. We all see new connections that can be made, and so once again, big thanks to our host, Dr. Douglas, at the Jefferson Square African American Heritage Center. This is a beautiful space that we all need to support. They have membership options available. If you're not a member, reach out to her and her team. Please do. We need spaces like this. And once again, the managers of our facilitation, the Center for Community Partnerships at UVA, please give them a round of applause. And once again, Mario Lewis, and we have folks again at Charlottesville United Public Education, FAR, Charlottesville Tomorrow, Charlottesville Inclusive Media Project, the Alphas with the voting information, Sally Hudson on ranked choice voting information. So make sure if there's anybody's contact that you don't have, let's get that as we leave. And once again, Sarah Davenport, Vinegar Hill Magazine, my good friend and partner. Sarah, you gonna be quiet all night? You good? You good? All right. All right. Well, peace and blessings, safe travels to everybody. Until next time, please stay tuned. IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.